All right. What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? What's up, Rams? No, I'm gonna screen share in here. Just give me a second. Hey, guys. Just waiting on York and JFresh. They should be here in a second. But I can start taking questions now. What's up, Poopy? I actually did get a couple of questions via DM earlier today from someone who's not going to make it. Um, so I'll have those if I can remember them, find them. All right. Who's gonna get their hands up? What's GS Roundtable? It's like these are for users of our options data platform in order to ask questions from the development team about how to use the data or understand the platform, stuff like that. Semi-weekly cult meeting. Please have a seat. Uh, what is the table round? I think it's to promote discussion. Round table would be better for that than a square or a rectangular table. Although a square table probably offers many of the same advantages. A larger rectangular table, you would assume that people would converse in front of them and not to the left and right of them. What's up, man? I'm just explaining why tables are round.
tables are round? Oh, it's so that everybody could be equidistant from stuff in the center.
Yeah.
Is that the answer you gave too?
No, 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 no. He's asked why is the table round? And I said to promote conversation with everybody at the table.
Yeah, the round table. Yeah, it. Grackle is right. It speaks to equality. There's no head. There's no foot. No side.
Yeah. So us glorious quants are getting down in the dirt with you guys and answering your questions.
There was talk of people this week who had questions.
You sound so luxurious now.
Everybody keeps saying that. Like,
Your voice, your microphone makes you sound like velvet.
well, I was talking to Nuke the other day, and he was saying, similar things, but he said it in a way that was like, it kind of took me back as he was like, "You sound so much better now. Like, I actually enjoy talking to you." And I was like, "Wait a minute." He said something like you actually sound like something someone I would like talking to. I was like, "What?" He said it in some weird way like that, implying that I sounded so bad. He like couldn't bear to listen to me speak.
He is heavily autistic. I'm sure it's difficult for him. He gets when he calls and I'm like in my car and I get on my Bluetooth, he just he gets very upset
Oh,
by it.
dude, I'm as someone who's been in a lot of those calls, I will attest. It is extremely. You sound like you
That, ladies and gentlemen, is not the sound of somebody who's done that for the first time.
I've been practicing.
I
I've
can
been
tell.
practicing Gherkin's Bluetooth speaker voice because can't understand what you're saying, but you're saying something we want to like is important and we need to hear, and it's just like, okay, say it again, and you're just
The worst part about it is I can hear you guys just fine.
yeah, I know it's got to be something. You're using like one of those like ear headsets.
No, no, it's just the Bluetooth system in my car.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think it's just
that's
like the maybe like the service quality, because on Discord it's like a data connection.
yeah, it could be. I don't know, but when you turn your phone on and talk in that in your car, you sound fine.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't understand why. And when I'm in like regular phone calls, the Bluetooth works great.
Mm. Ooh, what if it's like crisp or something?
Oh, you know what? It might be. That would make a lot of
Notifications.
sense. If it's like yeah, because Crisp is probably trying to block out the road noise.
Yep.
Yep.
It's just blocking you.
Fucking goddamn it! I hate Crisp.
Well, now we're gonna have to try it, and so Nuke's gonna have to endure that.
Yeah, yeah, he will.
Anyway,
We could do that tomorrow. Are we gonna bring Poopy on voice chat to say his farewell? He did.
I feel like he's had
I
too
DM'd
many.
him. I DM'd him like a little saluting gif. It was a salute.
Yeah, I mean, I said my piece in the chat about it. It just, of course, he's welcome back. It just, the dynamic where he felt he had nothing to lose because he was canceling but still here and just not filtering anything he was saying, no matter how disruptive or disrespectful, was just becoming a bit much. If he wants skin in the game, again, I won't see an issue with that.
Poopy's gone. Huzzah! I feel like
I don't
the
really want to. I don't. I don't really like talking about people that can't
He's on the YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah, he's over on the YouTube. He can hear us.
I feel less bad then, but I still don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about the product that we've been working on for forever.
Oop, hey, we got Senior Mangoes with his hand up.
What's going on, Gherk? How's your day been going?
What's up, man?
It's
How's
going
it
alright,
going?
man.
That's good. Good to hear from you too, Jay Fresh. Um, I was just gonna ask you about what happened earlier. I was reviewing your stream because I knew you'd have some very inquisitive thoughts on what happened right before the close, and I was also like, I was telling my friend, I'm like, hey, I gotta watch back on the stream because I bet Gurk called this, and then of course you did. You would have helped me from having to make the decision myself, but yeah, I got out of my short put at the perfect time, and crap my crap put on the vertical turned into like uh yeah, I think it went from like 10 cents to at least 150, but or well 150, $1.50 or something, but it cash settled, so that was cool. But I was just gonna ask you, when I was looking at your program, we you know, I was just looking at the chain. I don't focus on charts too much when I'm trading. I'm trying to focus more on just like what's going on the chain these days. But
Okay.
I noticed that on your program when we were following that gamma flip, the gamma flip was where we fell through. We kind of tested it for just a few seconds really, and then it was over from there. Like there wasn't even time to address delta flip. I was wondering what other types of things you could see at that time to kind of see the momentum of that move and know how deep it was really going to go. I mean, you could obviously assume from the top side of the move that if you just like equaled them out, oh, well, we fell this much. Now that we failed that, we'll probably get equally as much of a move down. But I know you were saying something like you haven't seen anything like that since like 2021 or 2022. I just was wondering if you could specify what it really was that you hadn't seen like
So,
before.
if you were if you were looking at if you were looking at like the IV chart around that time, when we were trading up above like 70. We had this really long period where we traded at $70. And we had a little breakup above that, and that failed. And we had a couple more minutes above 70. And this went on for like, oh, I don't know. It was about a little more than half an hour that we were trading up here. We had like well, if you looked at the IV at the 70 strike, especially when we moved away from it, it was just going up. It kept rising, and like it's hard to tell because it being spot, the rest of the IVs are rising alongside of it. So like the whole smile is shifting up. Um, and that was because all of the options at 70 were being bought. Um, and there was like a very clear it was very clear that it was just like bot calls and bot puts. The volumes were enormous. Like it was like 1,800 of each contract, and they just kept coming in and coming in and coming in, and like some calls would get bought, and then more puts would get bought. Um, and the market participants at the time were really fighting very hard for that 70 strike, one way or the other. And to the upside of spot, there was some bot calls, and to the downside of spot, there weren't really any puts. But the second we failed the upside breakout, um, some of the calls took profits, and you could tell because like the total IV at the strike dropped a little. It was about half of the calls that were open there at the time, and those open puts that were at that strike just took over. And so we, like, the second that profit taking happened, you know, we slammed back down into 70. We got like a little bounce, and then we just started failing. And then on the upside tests, more of those calls kept closing. So we got like another upside test right here around 1539, and then a really weird one right here at like 1550, like about 10 minutes before close. And this is when that call side positioning collapsed. And if you go back and watch the stream, I kind of made note of that. I was like, oh man, they're collapsing all the bullish positioning on this test. And they did. And then, you know, that put delta and the negative gamma just took over, and we just dumped.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see on, like, I was looking at it before on your stream. I didn't see the end of the stream, so I didn't really see the right-hand corner, the bottom right-hand corner, where it does show. I mean, it seems like a lot of people were forced to let off their calls who were long calls, so that was pretty interesting. But I've noticed that this environment, like you made note of the fact that SPX options are pretty expensive right now, considering the circumstances. So I've just been like shorting premium on SPX. I think it's like kind of the move as of lately, because
Yeah, generally is when you're in like, especially like during the pump and stuff. Um, selling vol is usually a pretty good choice intraday.
yeah, and it's actually hilarious. I think you'd find this pretty funny, because you warned me that Jim James would lead me in all the wrong directions when I brought him up to you at one point. And there was a little kerfuffle in his Discord with one of the guys who he like specializes in premium selling, and he's just like one of Jim James's friends, but like there was some type of thing that went down between these guys, because the guy literally went out and created another Discord, then invited me to it, and he's like, I'm not going to be dealing with Trade the Trigger anymore, like I'm taking a break or something. And now he's like, yeah, he'll be on the voice chat and he'll be like, yeah, I counter trade him all the time, like it's like fade the trigger, and I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But no, I was just surprised, because I'm like, bro, I actually found this really intelligent option seller guy in his Discord, so I'm like, at least I found something out of it. But thank you so much for warning me that guy would like lead me off a ledge, because he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, which is, and given the number of his followers, it's kind of fucking insane. I feel like that's, you know, that's one of the reasons we made Gammastrike, is really that like me and JFresh and Dork, we all, and really everybody on the team, we're all pretty passionate about like all of the hucksters that kind of wheedle their way into like retail finance discussion. And it's unfortunate because, you know, broadly general financial education is not a thing. I mean, most people really don't know what's going on with finance. They definitely don't know what's going on with trading and options. You might have some older retired people who start to dabble in fixed income and stuff like that, but broadly speaking, most people are not financially educated in any way unless they've pursued that track through college, and even then, it's of questionable merit, and unless they have like a lot of industry experience, and so you end up with like a very large group of people that don't have a lot of knowledge on a subject to refute claims that people make. And Unfortunately, that leads to a lot of people with very little knowledge gaining very large followings, who trust the things they're saying and believe the advice they're getting. And we kind of made Gammastrike because we saw that on the data side as well. Is that there were so many of these data services where the information was just not correct even, and they were giving this to people, and people were using that incorrect information and data to inform their positions and their trading, and that's terrible. 1 second, someone's
Sir,
at my door.
OX is backtested. That's not a joke. No, it's a joke. Yeah, I mean, I think he said it well. I hate it. I hate people that try to trick people, and I think the best way to resolve that is just to make the data available so that people can. So, like, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand, the underlying mechanics of all this stuff so that I can spot people who are saying bullshit or making unsubstantiated claims to, take advantage of somebody. And, I can't go around and, like, reply guy everyone with all the data. I think the best thing is just to make the data available so that people can learn to spot them themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have done a really good job of that. And I referred you to my friend Dr. CS, who he uses Bloomberg Terminal, and I don't know what the fuck Spot Gamma is on, because somehow through Bloomberg Terminal, Spot Gamma is charging people like $500 a month.
Yeah,
Well, they're getting
professional
10 off
services.
of it. Sorry, Gherk, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. I was just saying that's professional. I was interrupting you. That's professional user services. The costs are a lot higher because there's additional fees from the exchange. So if you're a Bloomberg terminal user, you're paying for professional data, which is way more expensive. I'm I'm actually surprised SpotGam is only charging that much through Bloomberg.
Yeah, I am too. Guess that's our high watermark, aspirational watermark one day.
I mean, I know singular models that like pod shops use that are several $1,000s a month.
I totally believe it. I mean, the gamma stuff is super respectable. Now that I finally have gotten into ES and SPX and that type of stuff instead of just dabbling in SPY options, I really hope to be able to like subscribe and really interact with the software firsthand. But I mean, you're really doing God's work there, Gherk, streaming it, because I'm really thankful that I get to see the info on your stream. I mean, there's nothing better I could ask for, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man, anytime.
We're just
Happy to help.
we're just getting you hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. No, for sure. I was gonna ask you too, Gherk. I know that you don't really. I mean, it's not. I'm not really trying to clue into like exactly how you trade or anything, but I did notice that your futures trading is almost like you're really good about disciplined scalping and like
Yeah.
I was just wondering, have you ever like dabbled in trying to do like a Kelly criteria type approach where you're really only allowing yourself to risk so much to make so much, and like kind of looking at it from a mathematical view of like, this is really what I need to get to this area here, or
I'm
I'm not sure. I just know you've been doing it for a while, so you've obviously
Yeah, I mean,
you know
I guess some of that is instinctually baked in, with, like years of risk management, and that like I have a pretty good idea based on my balance. I mean, I don't sit down. I'll tell you, I don't sit down with like a piece of paper and math it out generally. If it's like a really big position, um, on something, and definitely not like scalping futures, but like if I have like a very large position on something and I need to manage it actively, then yeah, I might be doing a little bit more of the math on the risk management side. But um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I've just kind of been doing it so long that it's like second nature, you know, like the whole 20% take profit, 10% risk thing, and or you know 1 to 2 ratios on profit loss is pretty easy once you've been doing it for long enough. I'm sure you'll get experienced with it over time.
No, I appreciate it for sure. I guess yeah, with like futures trading, you really have to be more instinctual about it because it's such an in the moment thing too that it's like really just getting practice at it helps, I guess. I mean, I've been I've been practicing like paper trading and stuff when I'm not comfortable taking that trade purposely just cuz I'm like I do not want to wreck my account. There's no reason for that, but it's also just like the environment we're in. It's like I didn't you usually try to like off the first like couple hours try to identify if it's going to be like more of a range or a trend day.
I usually have a pretty good idea the night before. I don't know if you're a zillionaire, but I do like a pretty extensive write up on like the S&P every night, both SPX and ES, and so um, I would say, I mean, you can ask around, but I would say far more often than not, I'm pretty right about the price action the following day. Um, Obviously, you know, it's just analysis. It can fail, but and things do happen. You know, we get news intraday and stuff like that that totally upsets whatever I thought based on the prior night's data. But I would say 90% of days I'm pretty close.
Oh, yeah, your reputation speaks for itself. I see your call outs and stuff on YouTube and that's enough for me to know for sure. I was wondering actually too about Billionaire. So how do I get on the Billionaire thing?
It's just on the YouTube. It's one of the membership levels, and then you link your YouTube to the Discord. Like you link your YouTube account to your Discord account, and it unlocks the other channels for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I would definitely rather spend money on that than some of the other discords I've spent money on, so I appreciate it.
I think it's still about 100% cheaper than a lot of the other ones out there. So
Oh no, for sure. No, I appreciate it. And I just would like to contribute anyways to your whole cause. You definitely are worth it. That's for sure.
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and one last question. I saw how you were critiquing like so like the particular order flow aspect on Weeble, like I wasn't sure exactly what your issue was with that in comparison to AMP, like how AMP is better than Weeble in that aspect. I guess I didn't catch it all. I'm not
Okay,
like
Amp's just
really.
a broker. So you have various sources of you have various sources of like actual trade processing that you can choose from, um, that's separate from the broker you choose for futures. Um, Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think about the names of them. There's like QRG or QRC or something like that, and then there's Someone was actually asking me about this the other day. Maybe I could find it. Oh yeah, CQG. There's CQG and there's Rhythmic. And there's a couple other ones. Um, I've always just used CQG, but I'm not like a heavy futures trader. There's guys out there that probably know more about the order processing from those, but CQG is the one. Like if you use AMP and use CQG, you get like Quant Tower for free as your charting software. You get like a slightly worse version of Quant Tower, but I mean, I actually don't know what Webull uses to process trades, but CQG's always been pretty fast for me. There is like Teton and Sierra, which is like what pros use. Um, so like the pro professional or algorithmic or like small CTA shops, they're likely to use Teton with Sierra chart, which has like a really steep learning curve. But I think they're probably the best, or they used to be. They've always been the best. I mean, things change, and I don't really track a lot of that nowadays. But yeah, you get slightly better fills. You get faster fills. And this is especially true with like stops and stop buys. Um, if you've ever like had like a stop buy out of the money on Webull on futures, and like you gap your stop by like 3 or 4 points, it hurts a lot. And on like CQG or Teton, you're not gonna run into that as much. Like you might get a little gap on your stop, but your fill is gonna be a lot faster. And that really matters if you're trying to play like reversal ranges, because unlike options where you need to be in the contract before the reversal happens because you want to buy the contract cheap. On futures, when you're scalping, you want to buy as the price action occurs, not before it occurs. And so very frequently the way you do that is you set up a buy stop. And then as price rises, you catch the uptick, right? And then you kind of ride the contract and then close it. And like, if that's a really violent reversal, and you don't have good clearing, you're gonna get a really shitty fill, and your profit's gonna be impacted tremendously.
And will you actually do like a buy stop off of like off of a new high? Will you do a buy stop if you're, or off of a new low? Will you do a sell stop?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do like stop straddles and stop strangles, because like like direction is uncertain. So I'll just set a stop sell and a stop buy on either side of spot and wait for one to fill, because I know where the breakout points are because of GS. Like I know where momentum is going to pick up. I know where the dealer is going to come in and buy futures more heavily or sell futures more heavily, and so I just use GS to inform myself on where those levels are going to be, and then I just convert that positioning over to ES. Because when a dealer, like a lot of people asking this about Gammastrike, like even though we don't have ES data, can you use it to trade futures? And I think I mean, like I've had a couple like 90% runs. I've definitely blown up a couple $250 accounts on bad news. Right? If you don't have the capital to support dealing with like a 30-point wick, the account just goes boom. Um, but I mean, those like 95% days that I've posted and stuff, those are all just using GS data. I mean, the dealer on SPX is going to buy their delta on MES and ES. And so if I know where they're going to pick up more delta or they're going to dump delta, I can just make that trade on a different instrument. It's still the same trade, you know. But
I understand. I've noticed that they definitely are flowing into futures when they need to hedge, so I can see how that would be helpful. I definitely appreciate it. I got to get a better understanding of how to really read the data, but I know
Starts
that
with the
comes with
docs.
yep,
Read the docs.
read the docs.
Docs, bud.
They're
Read the
free.
docs. Yeah. Docs are free.
Yeah, go to gammastrike.com and click on documentation in the top right, and it's got everything you need.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, no, I
you got it, man.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful night, you guys, and I'll get off the stage.
Catch you later, dude. Thanks for coming up.
Absolutely.
Jumped right in the middle of this, but it sounded like he was pretty new to the site and to the pickle jar.
He's been up. He's been up here a few times on the roundtables. Usually he's got some questions for us.
Man,
He hasn't fully committed to the cult yet.
yeah, I'm bad at PFPs, so. How you guys doing?
Doing all right.
I'm doing alright.
Yeah, I made some fish tacos. They're in the Cornichon cordon bleu. They look pretty good. I was pretty proud.
Nice.
What kind of fish tacos?
Are you guys like just like
just
their volume?
cod.
I think your guys' volumes are a little too soft. Hold on. Let me bump you up
Are
on
they?
the. Yeah, I'm gonna bump you up on the YouTube. I think on the Discord you sound fine, but it's just a little.
My eye hurts.
Well, go lay down. What are you doing here?
I mean, I can't lay in bed forever. I might as well just give up and die at that point.
Well, but you can. Okay, so the next time you get out of bed, go get an eye patch and put it on, and now you can like hobble around with like a fake peg leg and a hook hand thing, and you have good reason to do it.
Who says I'm not doing those things?
Whatever you do, don't watch the entire
Oh,
video
shit.
that pops up when you upgrade your membership. Close that video immediately.
I love that you haven't changed it. You just left it up for posterity.
Why would I change
Oh,
it? I never
I
wanted to
like
record it in the first place.
Is that pickled cabbage or is that pickled onions?
So it's a cabbage sort of slaw. I just mix it up with some lime juice and table cream and a little bit of cilantro,
What the fuck is table cream? Are you
a
buying
little
like
bit of, a little bit of salt.
crema?
Yeah, crema. Yeah,
The watered down sour cream?
dude. It's what are you on crack, dude?
You're
It's
Bitch.
it's like fucking sour cream's really cool uncle who gives you a BB gun for Christmas.
Is there spice in here anywhere? Where's the spice?
So when I cooked the fish, I seasoned it with a bunch of chili powder and stuff. And then there's a dollop of salsa right on top of the fish, just a tiny one to give it a little extra punch.
All right. The fish looks bland, but a very nice presentation. Was the fish bland?
If the fish was fine, I mean, maybe a little bit. I probably could have done something about that, but I was trying to just like I wanted to do like a light flouring and see how that turned out, and it didn't really brown up like I wanted it to.
Yeah, I feel like you're trying a lot of things at once, so it's kudos to you for the execution you're getting.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Seasoning's always hard.
yeah. Well, especially for fish, it's so delicate. Like I didn't want to overpower like the fish, but you know the salsa even was almost too much for it. Like you almost need something really concentrated and just leave some heat.
Grackle, no, they just did cross-linking. Epi off. They, like scratched my cornea and then burned it.
Almost sounds like getting a tattoo on your eye.
I'm not gonna lie, like watching that thing come down and just like scrape around on my eye, and, like just sit on the big opening is very very weird.
Wait, yeah, I wonder. So you just had to watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Do they put like a drop in so your eye doesn't move?
Yeah, they put in numbing drops. You can't feel anything.
Is it they just really got to trust you to just keep staring straight?
Yeah, I mean, if you move, he'll be like, "Stop that," and then he'll finish. And that's what he said.
There is no good Mexican
Any-
food in New York City, but I know that.
Come to Reno. I got you handled.
There's no good
Anyway,
Mexican
what's going
food in
on,
Reno
Moped?
either.
Good to
I've been
see
there
ya.
too.
Hi, Moped. Sorry.
Oh, hey guys! I just gotta caution you. That fish is very delicate. You can't overcook it like a pork chop.
I mean, don't try me.
Ouch.
Dork's
Yeah.
not a mod anymore, so he can't time you out. Don't worry.
I know.
I'm trying to
It's
help
like the
you
new
out.
fad. People make fun of me about pork chops the first thing when they come up.
I sympathize.
Hey,
I'm
man.
very clueless, but I took a cooking class at my local technical college, and I learned a few things. But there's technique you can pick up.
Honestly,
pork chops? Besides throwing them in the pan.
I can't think of any better way for me to express my personal affection for you than every month going to the CPI report and seeing how much pork chops have plummeted that month. And then going to tell you about it. It's like, Dork, they're down 1.6% month over month.
Well, dude, you just gotta start watching pork futures.
I called my I got a new
You mean lean
smoker, and I
hogs?
called it-
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a new smoker, and of course it has Wi-Fi because everything does, and I had to give it a name, and I named my smoker Lean Hog.
Nice. No, we're not trading agricultural futures because we're not that kind of degenerate. This would be a very small Discord filled with. It'd be like me and Dungston and 3 other people with more than $1 million.
And lots of pork.
I found it. I found the pork cutout futures. Here we go. This is my stock. Well, it's futures, but you know.
Did you find them?
So, Moped,
how
did
are
you-
they doing?
They're up.
Nice.
No, not nice. Well, no, I'm actually low on pork chops right now, so it's not very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
I wish I had
Should
caught
be
the
more
bottom last week.
be more sensitive to his pork chop status.
Maybe you can still
Yes.
get the manager special though.
The 5 for 5 deal at Save Mart. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
in.
Just fucking kill the arbitrage on that shit.
That's what 5 for 5 is doing. It's providing liquidity to the pork futures market.
Mm.
So, Moped, did you have a question, or do you just want to hear me talk about pork?
I think he came up here to talk about fish.
Both and neither. Actually, I do have a question. It is about the expected move. Like, is there any way to display and update the expected move during the intraday, like live, sort of like the way the Gamma Flip?
No,
And
yeah.
the flip
Of course we could.
We could, but the thing is that the implied move is. I guess we could. It would. I don't know how useful it would be though.
Interesting, because
It'd be useful enough that I'm gonna emphatically say we're
Yeah.
never making that
I
for you
heard-
guys.
No. I was about to say he's going to force us to add it to the DevOps, to our growing list of things that will never get done.
You can put it in there for me.
Honestly, I don't see the use to it. So,
I do.
well, like,
I
what
do
are you talking
too.
about? Like, are you saying like a 30-minute implied move? Is that what he's asking for? Is that what's going on?
Basically, just have the parabola just emanating forward.
Are we gonna
Oh.
create a layer
That's
of
easy.
Gammastrike that's just like
Yeah.
options maker models for people who think they need them?
I mean, yeah.
Cool. All right, we could do that. It's gonna be $800 a month.
Yeah, you want to
Well-
make the market? Have fun.
Well, I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but it almost seems like it's closer to the fabled puts calls indicator. And the way I look at it is, okay, if you get an update of the expected move or the implied move, you can think, okay, maybe there's going to be a mean reversion here. Or at the end of the day, like, 30 minutes or 15 minutes to the end, maybe maybe it makes sense to do a 15 MTE, or maybe it makes sense to do an iron butterfly at $7,
So
10 wide, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there is a worry there that it's going to create some false sense of comfort.
Yeah. Also,
Like there's nothing to stop the expected move from just like blowing out and then the market maker immediately pricing up everything. Like it's not.
Well, so here's another suspicion
happened
I'm going to
today.
have is that I'm going to have a suspicion that we're not the first people to ever think about doing a short-term implied move on
No,
at the money
it already
IV.
works. The problem with it is that
Yeah,
the
well, it
decay
works
of-
because there's traders trading on it. That's why it works. So like
Well,
that's what
yeah.
you're gonna see is like it's like maybe a support/resistance thing, but like it's not like gonna be a statistical
I mean,
certainty because
all
anything can
the
blow it out.
implied. I mean, all that implied move is telling you what the market expects to happen in the future.
yeah.
That expectation is constantly changing
In the next 30
so-
minutes.
Let me ask this question first. Do you currently have an issue with the next day implied move? Is that not very accurate?
I feel like it's been very accurate in the past, up until like we had all the weird like tariff stuff.
Oh,
It
when
just
volatility got completely fucking blown out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It just
because
seems like
the MM can only price so much. Otherwise, they won't be able to sell or move any options, right? If they overprice options, they'll kill the liquidity.
okay. So maybe the question, maybe a better question to ask you all is, it used to work really well up until the tariffs and all the volatility. What has changed that makes things go larger than the expected move? And are there ways that we can get actionable like data
Well,
or
that
sort
kind
of
of
insight?
well, hold on. Like, so it was very accurate up until vol blew out, but then it
Yeah.
became accurate again as price action as like HV started to come back down and IV came down. So I mean, what you're seeing is that it's in very high volatility environments. It's extremely hard for the market makers to appropriately predict the forward pricing of their options, and so they're definitely overcharging, right? But they're not probably overcharging enough.
Okay, maybe I'm still trying to better understand. Let me try to rephrase it again. So, like, what happens when things go beyond the expected move, or they don't meet the expected move? Are there sort of different calculations on the market maker's perspective?
Well, the market
That
makers constantly, like you said, there is a live expected move that the market makers constantly updating price relative to moneyness, and they're constantly updating price relative to well, implied volatility is price, but implied volatility is constantly changing.
Mhm.
It's dynamic, and so when you look at the next day's implied move that we give you in the overnight vol, like you're looking at what the distribution of pricing that the market maker has priced in as of close for the next day. So it's very valuable if there's like an overnight move and the market maker is off on their hedge going into open. Like if there's an overnight move that exceeds the market maker's expected move, the market maker is going to be a little bit offsides on their hedge going into market open. And so like that information is very valuable, but throughout the day, throughout the trading day, remember that all of those options that are bought and sold are being bought with that move priced in. And so the market maker's book is really bound to the thing that they were pricing the prior day when people started buying those 1 DTEs. And so as they go to hedge that book throughout the intraday, they have to factor in the fact that they were pricing in more and maybe now they need to price less, or maybe they weren't pricing in enough and now they need to price more. And so there's not really, it's not really that something happens at the upper and lower bound of that. It's just that the upper and lower bound of that is already constricted by what was already bought and sold on the market maker's book. And that's why, they have relevance. And that's why sometimes you see price like exactly test that expected move and fail.
Right.
And but their accuracy is still determined by increases in volatility in the intraday. And so, like yesterday, we greatly exceeded the market maker move to the downside. Today, we stayed perfectly within it. Like the killed it today because we closed flat. So they weren't offsides on anything. Um, but there was news. There was a driver of a change in price yesterday and a change in volatility, and so the has to act like when that happens. The has to actively hedge, and they have to hedge their whole book against that news and that change in price. And so, I mean, if anything, I would say it's a point at which the market maker would prefer to not cross because that's what they'd already priced in advance. But if it does occur, they're going to dynamically hedge and catch up with it.
Sure, and that part makes sense. I think the part I still don't fully get is this is where we expect them to move, and if they go beyond that, we kind of expect them to go back to that because that makes the most sense for them. But they also have to hedge for current conditions. And are you basically saying that if we go beyond that expected move, that is still a valid sort of indicator, even if we're beyond it? I guess I'm just trying to better understand how
Yeah,
to.
I mean, just so the way that I think about it is, it is the but it's also kind of the market in the aggregate. This is what they expect to happen, and this is how they have bought and this is how they have positioned for the future. And so once you go outside of that range, that means that the market did what the majority of participants in the market did not expect to happen. And so you're going to have more violent reactions to that as people are caught off sides.
Yeah, remember like everybody who's selling the short strangles every day and all those funds that are just like they're selling strangles and they're selling straddles. All of those funds are basing their next day's trading on what the market maker is doing, right? So even if we do the naive thing and we presume that the market maker is neutral and has no effect on price, all of those participants that have built their positioning for the following day with the market maker's expected move in mind are then offsides on their hedges when that happens. Now, a lot of them also dynamically hedge, but not all of them do. And so that's why you kind of see higher moves and volatility and stuff going into or exceeding the market maker's expected move because there's other participants that are not prepared for that price action.
Yeah, so like in general, when nothing crazy's happened, like you said, like before the tariffs and before, whenever there's not like a crazy news story, basically everyone's shorting stuff in the intraday. So if you look at like the 1 day expected move, that's basically most of the people that are shorting the market are like, I'm going to sell my spreads and I'm going to sell my short options kind of at the edge of this range or outside of it. And so they have a huge vested interest in ensuring that that's going to stay in that range because their existing positioning is already in, assuming that outcome. So they need that outcome to come to fruition. And so you'll get a lot of, pushback from participants and market makers, who, based on their existing positioning, they don't want to be wrong and they will expend capital to ensure that they aren't wrong to the extent that they can.
Yeah. And you also, I mean, you also
So
have
if
like,
short vol, yeah. So on days when short vol's in control, you're probably not going out of that range. They'll sell whatever it takes to keep us in that range. And if
yeah,
they don't, then it blows out, and it blows out because they have to just, they have to start hedging the other way, which means they, are basically buying into the move.
yeah. Like
Like I
said,
yesterday
like,
was
when
a
you see
very,
that, you're
very
seeing
obvious
traders.
example of like short vol getting blown out.
Yeah, but this all goes back to what I was saying, where like with implied move stuff. I mean, what are you really seeing besides traders trading around those implied moves? So, and that's it's one of those things that, I mean, in the doldrums of the market, yeah, it's not going to be really much of anything besides the support and resistance. And if it gets blown out, like Jay Fresh was saying, I mean, at that point, it almost essentially becomes meaningless.
Yeah. I mean, not meaningless. Within a range of it, there's still the weight. This is something else you have to consider.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
guess
of
if you
factors
double
here,
it,
but
yeah.
there's like the weight of the MM's book. If we've traded 99% of our options within the market maker's expected move, and that's what they're hedging towards. The same way we use delta flip and gamma flip to identify where the market maker's most neutrally positioned. You can use the expected move in the same way, in that like the weight of their hedge is counteracting moves that are in excess of their expected move. Because like if you shoot past the expected move, yeah, they have to dynamically hedge the upside, but their interest, their incentive is to pull that back, right? And so if price moves back towards the expected move from that point, the MM's going to be more than willing to hedge back into the range where the rest of their book is weighted. And I think sometimes the effect of that is pretty dramatic. Like, I mean, I know, like, academically, MMs don't wag the dog, but I would say that the things we see every day and the data we look at shows that they really do, like, very heavily.
Yeah, I kind of figured this wagging the dog if we basically have 7 stocks that are holding up the entire market, is there's got to be some sort of like mutual delusion, or hey, we're just gonna like hold this up, with these things.
Yeah, and I think the higher correlation is, the more the effect of the MM. I always look at like core 1 month and 3 month to kind of track that how into that dispersion trade people are. And I think the MM, like when correlation's really low, the MM's effect on the market is negligible, but when it's really high, the MM has a lot of very dangerous exposure. And so they're going to be dynamically hedging so much that the effect is very pronounced. And the more concentration you have in that correlation, the more that's true. And we really have a lot of concentration in that Mag 7 trade. Like, that's probably 90% of the dispersion is just those 7 stocks.
Yep. I mean, I look at it every day. I mean, even today was a great example. In the morning, RSP, the equal weighted SPX was like way down, and the meme 7 was way up, and SPX was basically flat. And it's basically just like everyone went short vol on the index and went long vol on, basically 7 stocks, because that makes up a large enough basket of the entire SPX that it's a quote unquote dispersion basket.
It's like 38%, right?
It's something, it's up there. It's like
Yeah.
35 ish. I haven't looked in
Gotta
a
love
while, ever since Polygon broke their market cap output.
Get wrecked.
But yeah, it's tricky. And then there's also importance in the spread. If you notice, I try to highlight that every night for you guys. But there's some importance in like the I mean, statistically significant importance in the spread between the 0-day options price and the implied move for the monthly contract.
Yeah, trying to understand it a bit more is okay. The monthly contract, it probably doesn't affect intraday as much, but
But there's
I guess
ARB there. There's ARB between the 0-day contract and the 1 month, like the monthly contract, 1 day implied move.
okay. And I think I'm trying to get better at interpreting the positioning between SPXW when it's 0DD versus end of week, and then comparing that to the SPX monthly and trying to understand, you know, how do you weigh the different ones? Which one makes more sense for a
Well,
certain
it's
period?
just thinking about like where participants are incentivized to buy long or short vol relative to because the tradable instrument there is the 0DT contract, but the pricing is skewed by the 1 month contract. And so, if the SPX 1 day implied move is like 98 bips and the SPXW implied move is 20 bips, you have a big offset there. And then, that in order to catch up to that higher vol implied by the monthly contract, which is significantly heavier on the chain than even the 0 DTEs because the enormity of the OI there, then participants would probably want to go long volatility because it's very likely that volatility is going to catch up on the intraday move to the move implied by the monthly contract and vice versa. So if the spread on the 0-day contract favors, if the spread favors the 0-day contract, it's 90, and the SPX contract, the monthly contract, is like 20. People are going to want to short the fuck out of vol because it's way too high relative to the expected move for the day out further. And sometimes those spreads break apart pretty far into the future too. It'll be like not only the 1 day, but the 5 day, and sometimes even the 30-day volatility. And like we should probably track one that's kind of in between there, like 15 days or so, but because that would be a little closer to like a shorter OPEX expiration. But and we might add that, but that can give you a really good idea of kind of how participants are managing volatility positions and where their risk is. Are you going to see a lot of put sellers? Are you going to see a lot of put buyers? And exceeding those expected moves also opens up opportunities, right? People want to sell puts when you are beyond the lower bound of the expected move because it's not been priced in. So those puts are like you cross that lower bound of the expected move, those puts are rocketing in price. You want to sell the fuck out of them. And so, and that pulls vol back the other way and stabilizes things. And same thing to the upside, days where we like, this happens a lot, we'll gap up over the expected move overnight, and then we open and price action's just flat, everyone nets off, and then the price gets crushed. And that's because everyone's selling calls. So like, oh, look how high we opened. These calls are super fucking expensive. I'm going to sell them. Right. And that's true for people going short the vol, but it's also true for people who are, already long the calls. Like the incentive there is to sell. It's to sell and buy puts. Because you want to play the uptick in vol from all of the calls selling off. So you go long the put, and then you sell the calls.
Okay, go tits up.
Yeah, I would say that is far more common than blowing out the lower bound of the expected move. Oh,
Yeah,
it definitely goes tits up, but it's pretty reliable that market maker or market participants are going to behave in their best interests as the data incentivizes their trade one way or the other. I mean, that's why our data appears so accurate, because it is, and because it's accurate data, you're seeing in real time how market participants are reacting to those conditions.
You're such a shill.
I know.
So I still circling back to that is, again, probably the most accurate indicators for that are going to be the intraday live data for the delta flip and the gamma flip, and then looking at the like incoming like delta and gamma on the live GSX. Is that basically, and just kind of getting better at being able to interpret that with the changing conditions?
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear. That was my bad. I got distracted.
Oh, no worries. I think basically what I said was, in terms of being able to interpret stuff intraday, it's still best to look at the the real time data with the delta flip and the gamma flip, and then looking at the live GSX and seeing how the gamma and delta changes for those things,
Yeah.
and kind of basing around that. And I guess I mean I need to get better at interpreting the live data coming in. I mean, obviously the delta and gamma flips are pretty easy to look at.
But also, like, don't get too hung up on the live data. Remember that there are breakpoints. Like, there's information in the overnight that's just as important. And if this is a mistake a lot of people make, is they get too hyper focused on what's going on live, and they're not paying attention to the overall positioning, that overnight implied move, the where the delta breakpoints are in the chain, because there's things that we look at that are further out, they're bigger than what's going on in the intraday, and so you want to get good at coalescing all of that information to inform your thesis. Like I told everyone, like, oh, today's gonna be like kind of flat and choppy if we end up in this range, right? Like, it was like the 25 to 50 range, I think I mentioned last night. And that, like, we still closed there. Like, we kind of blew out past it for a little bit, but then we just snapped back at the end of the day. And understanding and knowing where the draw in the market is, and where positioning is heaviest in the overnight and out further on the chain, is still very important. Like, not all the information that's relevant to trading the index is going to be found just in the live data.
So I think that's an important point that I don't fully get. I don't know about other folks. Is you look at the pickles picks, or you look at the previous night's data before market open, and you see where things are, and you just kind of assume, okay, that's a snapshot in time. Things are going to change during the intraday. Focus on that.
Some things are going to change.
Okay. And I guess the challenge is to say, here's all this still the data from last evening. I need to consider that a bit more, and I definitely need to get better at that, and maybe kind of understand how to better balance that between the last day's overnight data and the live data.
Yeah, you gotta just it's not easy, but you want to try to think about everything in aggregate. You're looking at like the 50 strike today. You need to not just think about what's going on live on the 0DT at the 50 strike, but also think that it's a major resistance level. All the 50s and aughts are, right? And then you also want to think about the positioning that's there, that's longer term. Is that positioning going to move around? Probably not. That positioning is kind of locked in there, and it's creating its own draw and push as price action occurs on the intraday. That shit further out on the chain is still being hedged alongside the 0DT. The 0DT just has a lot of importance because it carries so much gamma, but it doesn't have a lot of delta. Out of the money shit on the 0DT has very little delta, and so you want to take into account like delta's your that's your main focus, even above gamma. And so, that's why I always look at delta into the end of the week. I don't look at 0 DT delta, because those bigger levels are very, very important even for intraday price action. Like, you could have shorted the slip of 50 today knowing that there's a ton of delta there that's going to go out of the money on the downside move, and like you would have still done really well even if you ignored like the smaller intraday strikes. There was big resistance at 75 and there was big support at 50, and so you can play that price action. You can like at least make a bet that like we are likely to mean revert back to where the majority of participants are, which was at 50.
Are you saying to focus more on the delta than the gamma? Because I think that's the opposite of what I took away from Pickles, Picks, and Data's.
No, I think you need to look at both.
Well, of course, yes.
Yeah, you need to understand the impact and the weight of each. Or gamma's still derivative of delta.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, delta is always the most important, always
Okay.
above
Yeah.
everything else. And there are periods in time and like little pockets near expiration and stuff like that where other derivative exposure picks up more importance and starts to, but it's never the equal of delta.
So then I could then be very wrong here. Like I was thinking that you looked at the gamma as potential. This is where things can go, and then if you go there, then the MM has to hedge all that delta that's there. So I've always been more focused on the gamma. And
So
that could be
that's
wrong.
sort of right. So I think the key is you have to think about the options market as a constantly evolving and dynamic entity. So
course.
gamma is important. So the reason that people focus a lot on gamma is because in a static market where the contracts that are open are the contracts that are open and nobody is closing or opening new contracts and the market makers are all perfectly hedged, then the delta has no impact in that very static case. And then the only impact to flows is gamma. However, if somebody starts buying and selling contracts with delta on them, then there are delta flows as well. And because, like he said, gamma is a derivative of delta, usually we're talking, 1/10 the impact of delta. And so if there's a lot of dynamic contract trade opening and closing, that new delta flow can swamp whatever gamma hedging might have to also be occurring in that situation. Also, when you get to certain levels where there are lots of positions, that's precisely the point at which those positions are most likely to make a trade decision, right? And so if you know where there's a big pocket of exposure and you start to approach that and you get a lot of activity near that exposure, you're going to get a lot of delta flows in addition to gamma flows. Because participants are going to say, "Oh fuck, I shouldn't keep this sold put open. I have better close it." Well, that's buying that put to close is a negative delta flow.
Yeah, like there was no at the end of the day move today. There was no out of the money gamma, right? Gamma was just. I mean, we were so close to close. The gamma was just increasing relative to moneyness. So one strike's pumping, like the gamma's rocketing up one after another after another. There's the biggest effect of speed there, but and that was definitely more pronounced. But it was like what happened at the money at 70. That was all because of delta. That was because people were buying, you know, in the money, like at the money, and sometimes slightly in the money puts in large quantities. And that was, the MM's just going to start dumping their hedge because those puts start to outweigh the calls of that strike, and you're going to get a shift in delta. Now the rate of that shift in delta is impacted by the gamma, which was very pronounced because end of day, and so as we moved down, more and more delta got dumped with respect to
Yeah, because the market maker knows as it's selling into this and the price is dropping, it knows what its or its gamma exposure is going to be as it starts moving down.
yeah, and so they're
And so
preempting
it
that.
has to prepare for that too, but also it has to keep, they have to be aware of, hey, a lot of these positions are probably going to bail or move around themselves. So they're managing all of those dynamic flows that are happening at that time. But yeah, I mean, end of the day, something like that. I mean, gamma played a big role once the delta kicked it off.
Yeah.
And it was like a zipper unzipping, right? I mean, it starts going down. The market maker knows it feels that gamma, and then it starts to become a self.
Yeah, and in an event like that, that's really where your like third order derivatives start to become very, very important. Like speed's just going crazy on that downside move, which is acting
Charm too.
multiplicatively. Yeah, and charm also. When that
As all those out of the money puts that are decaying to zero are suddenly
not
ramping to one.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's just a huge, there's all of these, for all of those little reasons, like they all were working together at the end of the day today to basically just unzip a massive string of positioning. Yeah,
Cool
gamma is. Yeah, so gamma. Think of gamma as kind of like if the market is largely happy, like gamma is kind of those places where you can pick up some indication of flows that you think are likely to happen in those areas. But once you start getting a huge dynamic volume, like where positioning is stressed and changing, gamma takes second place to, delta that's flowing in.
Yep. Yeah, if nobody trades anything at all ever, gamma wins.
All right, thanks. Good to know. The last thing, just really quick question. Like whenever you like update the documentation, is there a way to like just put like the like last update date on it, or like a quick summary like what's been changed? Because I've read through it twice already, but I think it would be cool for folks to know, okay, here's what was updated. That's what I should, read again and like brush up on. It might be like a good thing to consider.
Yeah, just having like an update.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically,
Yeah,
like
sure.
like a like a Git repo, like you have like the pull, like the commit or the pull request. Hey, here's what's
Yeah.
changed. That might kind of help.
Yeah, I think it might make sense to just put it right on the front page of it.
Or we could just have
Yeah,
like
I
the
can do that.
different tabs highlight if there's new stuff added.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on the docs now, and I'm hoping to have a push of some size this weekend. I can't promise it's going to be huge, but I've already updated a couple pages, and I have an idea that because just our bandwidth is restrictive right now, so I have an idea for those placeholders for those graphs that aren't there. They're supposed to be interactive. I think I could find a happy medium and just make animated GIFs of the effects that I'm trying to show. It's not quite as frictionless as an interactive graphic where someone can just make the change exactly how they want to, but I'm hoping it'll be a good longer term placeholder.
Cool, thanks guys. Appreciate the roundtables.
Yeah.
We appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
coming.
no problem. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Thanks for answering. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming out, man. Later.
All right, bye.
Poopy says, can we get a total OI filter on V-spread or some of the other filters? We're gonna do market cap probably as soon as we have that data feed.
Yeah,
For now,
we're
you're just
working
gonna have
on-
to parse through it manually. But
yeah.
We're working on some fun stuff with OI changes too, like visualizations of that. So
yeah,
plenty of fun
Well-
stuff to come related to OI and all that.
Will it look like a spreadsheet?
no. You know how I feel about spreadsheets,
Gross.
Willie.
I know. Spreadsheets are for poor people. Spreadsheets for entry level jobs. I know.
Spreadsheets are for interns.
Spreadsheets are for interns, and reverse is for poor people. That's why expensive houses have round driveways.
Exactly.
Rich people don't back up. I got it.
That's
Hi guys. What's going on? Sorry.
What's up, man?
I had a frog in my throat.
I can send you a spreadsheet. What do you want in it?
We'll talk because we'll talk. Just popping in for a sec. I might pop back in later. I got a million things going on, but it popped into my head as Moped was expressing himself there that I personally would enjoy a line on my Gammastrike chart that showed expected move high, expected low. So I stopped forgetting where it was, whatever.
Do you
for
want
the morning.
my
And-
interpretation of the expected move, or do you
Well,
or do you want just
well,
like you want
is it-
SPX and SPXW printed separately?
Yeah, you know, we focus so much on
Because I add them and divide them by
the live
two.
data. Okay, well, I mean, I just use that formula of the first strike, the second strike, the third strike each way. I do this for myself, but it's a pain in the butt, and I always forget, and you end up, in a battle with a position you're managing, and I don't know, it'd be nice to throw it on the chart. Just so it's there, like, hey, there's a line approaching. It's the expected move high, and we're gonna cross it right now. And it might be not terrible once the drudgery work of automating it happening is done. It's done.
It's super easy
It
to
just shows
do.
up on the chart.
Takes like
Well,
2
yeah,
minutes. I mean,
I think that you should come down from the 85th floor of the Gammastrike corporate tower. Get on the Gammastrike
86th.
maglev train over to the other side of campus, where the Gammastrike quantum physics labs are, and
Yeah, he
instruct Dork and Nuke and their vast core of 500 user interface engineers to create this line for you.
What he needs to do is he needs to take the maglev train to the local grocery store so he can get in touch with the common person and buy some groceries.
I do. I spent. You know how much time I spent at Whole Foods buying overpriced eggs in front of people?
We all know you. We all know
If
you
you-
buy your eggs at Costco.
No.
I think that was
I went to Whole Foods
That was a-
specifically
that
when
was a-
egg prices peaked.
I think that was a groceries versus groceries joke. Is what I think.
You know
that
what?
was.
There's a lot of layers to that actually.
It's a multifaceted wind up.
I do like an audience when I'm buying eggs. I was buying the Vital
Exactly.
Farms ones that were still on the shelf because they were too expensive for other people to buy. They're like $17
Just like-
a dozen, and I was just
like slow.
I was just putting them in my cart. Yeah, real slow.
They're just pre-engineered to smell exactly like your own farts, so you don't even have to recreate.
I also never go to the self checkout.
I hate.
Oh, I
So
hate-
whenever
I hate
whenever
self-checkout.
whenever a self checkout person comes over, I'm in line and they say, self checkout is open if you'd like to use it." I say, "No, thank you. I don't work here."
Yeah.
Exactly. I like when they figure all that shit out for me. It's like I don't know.
I'm gonna stand here and listen to the Dodger game and let you do the work.
I think the
because
most
I'm already
important
paying
thing
for the
is
product.
I don't want to put shit in bags myself.
Yeah,
Ever.
that was annoying during COVID. Oh, we can't bag that for you. Bag it yourself. Anyway, so now here's a couple of tiny add-on thoughts to that. There's the evening. You say your interpretation isn't everything about Gammastrike. Your interpretation, kind of, sort of. So yeah, I mean, just
Look that
just an just an indicator on the chart would make me super happy. So I remember, oh God, we're coming up on the expected move, and we're going to go over it. We're going to bounce off it. We're whatever. Wouldn't hurt. Number one. Number two, is it worth having like a morning recalculation of that? Like some of the other communities my nose is in, there's a lot of attention paid to this, how the straddle price changes from, the straddle price that you can find at close when you end up calculating the expected move versus the new straddle price that happens at open or some point before open or after data drop or whatever. There's probably some landmarks there where that simple calculation stuck in a little automated routine that throws a line on the chart could just be helpful, even if just raising awareness of, if we're bouncing off the expected move and turning around the other way, don't buy the wrong direction contract.
Yeah, no,
Might be a worthwhile little graphical element to throw on there.
yeah, I mean that's why I threw it in the overnight charts on Pickles Picks. I mean, and I actually only add them and divide by 2 in order to simplify the number of lines I have to move on my trading view chart every day.
Yeah,
I just don't want to do I don't want to move 4 lines. I just want to move 2. So, but
I think
the confirmation bias from that line moving has been very nice. But I'm also assuming. I mean, there is another reason behind it. I'm assuming that at the end of the day, that the arbitrage between the spreads is going to close, and so that's why I'm finding that median.
Where in the morning would be a valuable time to reassess that? Because obviously the expected move is great until the overnight move blows it out or data drops or whatever. Like Schaefer says, it's a dynamic market. It's also dynamic pricing. And I think there's a lot of things that every service leaves the user to, have your third and fourth eye somewhere on an options chain. And you're supposed to notice that the pricing of puts just climbed a little more than the pricing of calls or whatever, or IV in this set strip increased more than in that strip. It's so difficult to watch the chart, watch whatever indicators you prefer to trade with, and watch all that. And something like that, some sort of there's the line for the expected move from the night before's calculation. There's an updated one in the morning. And what was the other thing that popped in my head there?
Oh yeah, that's right, because we're doing morning updates now.
Yeah, exactly. So because
So
obviously that overnight information could be just completely stale by the time we open.
Well, the implied move won't. The implied move won't change.
Well, but the implied move is based on pricing, and pricing changes based on flow and vol and everything else. So yes, sometimes it shows as can act as support and resistance, like we've been talking about, because the hedge that's established before some part of the market making complex turns off their machines and goes home at night in Chicago versus is there all night with somebody on a desk pricing things, which is only believed to be a very small portion of the whole registered space of market makers. Coming in the morning at 7 a.m.
But it's the ones that matter. The ones that matter are repricing all night.
Well, yeah, the big ones that
who gives a shit about some fucking
desk of 5 interns?
Some little fucking shop running the 0.1 delta options on SPX.
Sure, except that when 300 of them come in at 7 in the morning and start playing whack-a-mole with the price because their hedge is off.
Yeah.
So I think there's you're onto something there with you're doing morning updates. Maybe there's a Gammastrike modeled move from 10 p.m. on. I don't know, but there's pricing changing that seems to me. If I'm looking for this, where's this damn sheet?
But hold on. It doesn't matter if price changes overnight. This is where you're kind of losing the script. It doesn't matter if price changes overnight. That is the way the options were priced at close. So the shit is already
Sure.
on their books at those prices.
Okay, but as soon as we open, if we open a significant percentage into or even past that move, pricing's out the window. They're going to reprice it and move hedges right then. Like we said, if you're
Yeah.
already pressuring their hedge, that's going to change, and that could change the like. It could just
Yeah, so if you open
puts
300,
a new set of cones around the giant.
but it still
traffic
tells you
accident in the
everything you
morning,
need to know. If you open 300 points above the expected move, because some fucking news dropped overnight, or there was a big structural change, or an earnings, or some shit like that, you already know where the was going to get burned. You know
Yeah,
that
and
they're
that they
going to
have
need
to
to
buy calls.
continue to, yeah, they just need to continue to pick up delta and
Well,
puts to the downside. So I mean, it's still I mean, I don't have any problem putting the line on the chart, but it's still giving you the information that you need.
Yeah, sure. And I don't think that one should be erased over the other. I just wonder if there's another model that's worthwhile in the morning. And you guys are more experts than me to tell
You
me
want
that.
like a market, Well, okay, so Marpo brought up, or Moped brought up,
I just stuck a
intraday,
image in chat because I know how much you love spreadsheets.
intraday, implied move. And the problem with an intraday implied move model, which they do exist, they're used by MMs almost only. The problem with those models is they decay to 0, right? And so they're kind of useful in the early part of the day when there's a lot of liquidity moving around further away from spot. But when all of the trading is occurring at 3 strikes or 4 strikes, that model becomes really fucking useless really fast.
Well, sure, and yeah,
Because it just
the
goes
tails
like,
become insignificant.
yeah, the tails become insignificant. You just and near close, like within the last 30 minutes of the day, the implied move is just going to be the 2 strikes on either side of you every time.
No, I past about the first hour of the day, you're for me anyway, and I think others would agree. The discipline of trading doesn't have anything to do with the opening and with the implied move from the night before. At that point, it's a curiosity. Oh yeah, hey look, here's the implied move from last night. We're crossing over it. Oh, we bounced off it or whatever. And we've already determined, like, yeah, sure, put a line there. That's not just a big deal. While Moped was describing what he was describing, I was thinking, there really is kind of another implication once the market opens. And I don't know what that is because I would have to stop watching what I'm watching and go calculate it. And I wonder, maybe is there just a little note on observing the straddle and being like, we move up $10 and every 5 minutes,
I actually don't think we use
publish
the straddle
with a little lean towards put or call, because that's another thing I think that we don't see really easily is those moments in the day where there's kind of a like a pitcher tipping his pitches, right? Like puts start to price up or IV starts to move, and like you were saying today with the 70 level.
Yeah.
And like, is there some way of indicating that? I don't know. And I wonder if the place to
I
start
think there are,
is how much the straddle costs.
So we don't use the straddle to
have some
price
things
our
in the-
overnight move.
I know.
There are different ways to get at the same expected value. There's lots of different arbitrage conditions, like the price of a straddle and other things that should all equal the same thing in a in an arbless environment. But we do have a pipeline of tools that we want to add to the live data page. I know I've been saying this for a few weeks now.
We just got real time data. So.
Yeah, our lovely nuke absconded to Germany. He's currently plying himself with beer.
Who approved this? Get HR on the phone.
I didn't. But we hope he's having a great time, and he should be back next week. So we should start to see.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course.
good
I just,
movement on stuff again.
I mean, I'm not.
But yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not,
we
like,
hear
marching
you.
in-
We hear you.
I'm not marching in
And
insisting on things. I'm just following the same thing and learning
No,
from
no, no.
development.
I
And
mean,
where I do work, which
I-
is you got to say it all out loud, or
we do value all the feedback from everybody, and we do spend a lot of time thinking about it. I mean, I'm already thinking to myself all the cool ways we. The problem with like the intraday indicator, and I think Gherk already touched on a lot of these, are just there's going to be a lot of challenges in terms of how do you read it and what is it really actually saying, other than just a different way to show current pricing. And
okay.
think
Well, I
there's
mean, my
potentially
subtotal
better
request
ways.
would be: is there a morning pricing? And then that's it. Not like maybe not trying to follow it all day long.
Well, you have your
Because
delta
I
and
think
your
there's
gamma
better
flip,
ways to determine
which are
it, like you said,
tracking.
with Delta.
Hold on. You have your delta and gamma flip, which are already tracking the pre-market trades on Globex. Like
Well,
when
that's true.
market opens, those, and that's why sometimes like everyone's like, oh, the new ones are pinned so far from spot. That's because that's where the trading was, and the overnight
You're
session
actually
before
ingesting
things.
that
Yeah,
data and processing it now.
and so I mean, you have those, which is already
true.
telling you a lot about where the market's weighted.
That's true. It's very true.
And we are adding other tools, but you also, like I told Moped, you also have the overnight information. You know where, where ES spot is, and you know where Delta is on the chain. You can look.
Me personally, for as much as I trade it, I know where it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at where the Delta is on the chain. You can, like, go out to Greeks by Strike.
True.
And you can, you pull up your Delta and you fucking look at your 0 DTE. If futures is trading up here at like 170 or, 5,900 or sorry, 870 or 5,900, you're going to know the impact of Delta at market open. I mean, even Gamma too, you're going to know. I mean, Gamma's going to be higher because moneyness has moved closer to those options, but I mean, that's still going to give you kind of a lay of the land of where you're opening. Like, if you open out above the Delta at 5,900, there's no fucking Delta up here, right? Like, this is going to pull back towards that larger Delta. If you open in a pile of, like, really high positive Delta, the opposite's going to be, true.
And the outlying case to that would be when there's a reason for positioning to be flooding in at open, which sometimes happens, obviously, but there's no tracking that. That's happening in real time.
I will say it's very rare that we open overnight above the expected move and price action continues to the upside with no pullback. Because like I said earlier, at open, everybody is incentivized to the same end. Everybody who had was long the call overnight wants to close it. Everybody that wasn't wants to short the calls that are closing. Because they're going to drop in price, right? They're overpriced because of the overnight move. The MM has had to right it open. The MM is just rocketing the prices on those calls. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they have to do so much of it that, like, if you have a really good broker like IBKR, you can literally put a lower, like, you can put the prior night bid in and still get a fill on the opening bell.
I feel often very proud of myself for going through the trouble of learning that platform and have been, yes, they will hit you. They'll give you that lowest fill in that first couple seconds.
Yep, you can actually squeeze it in there. If you were on the floor at SIBO, you could get an even better one, right? Like, and everybody knows that the MM is going to price those up like crazy. So everybody with money, especially everybody influencing spot price, is going to just start selling those calls.
Now, me personally, I was probably on those calls an hour before open, but.
Yeah, that's
because I take very heavy advantage of trade. Like right now, I can go buy an SPX contract if I want.
Yeah, you can. I don't know why you wouldn't just trade ES, but
money.
Okay.
Margin.
Yeah, fair.
if I wanted to keep it all under one shop, that's too heavy a requirement. I don't care. I have to do that on trading dealers or Trade Evade or some shit.
Yeah, it's something with our lower overnight margins.
Exactly.
I actually
or
hate
just a lower
IBKR's ridiculous margins.
Yeah, they're high.
Weeble's starting to price theirs up too. They were trying to compete in that same space, but then they were like, over the last few weeks, they're like, fuck that. And they just haven't lowered their margin requirements again.
And there's a flaw in how you create brackets on the DOM.
On Weeble?
In Trader Workstation.
Oh, yeah. No,
There's a really big
IBKR
flaw with how the
IBKR
bottom end of a
absolutely
bracket
sucks.
works, and I've gotten burned hard by it, so I'm very hesitant. I mean, a few MES as a head, sure.
Yeah.
Not ES. It can be tragic in one candle.
Well, let's not talk about that, because otherwise people are going to be asking me how to reduce their delta exposure on their SPX contracts with MES.
Oh.
And I can't just tell them to go trade XSP anymore.
I never said anything.
Yeah, good.
XSP is sucking hard right now.
It always sucks hard.
Yeah, not going well. Okay, anyway, and my other thing was, we were talking about this in DMs today.
Mhm.
What was I getting anywhere with, like, is there, I've been having this thought that, like, looking at the lower left panel on the live data page.
Yeah.
What do we call the other live data page now? The not quite so live data page?
It's going to go away. Just
Oh, okay.
The
Forget
soon
it
to be
exists.
gone page.
yeah, pretend it's
Yeah.
dead.
The legacy live page. How's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. End of life.
Right. You're still
End
in.
of
You're
life
still in
live
like
page.
you're still in like your limited trial, and you've already got end of life features. I love it. Okay. So in the live data, when I'm looking at my confusion today was like, is there some sort of indication of the strength of the passing across the flip by the lower left gamma and gex chart?
There,
You know what
okay.
I'm saying?
So I'm gonna try
Do
to
you get what I'm
explain this-
saying? Like-
yeah, I do. I'm gonna try to explain it to you a different way though, that maybe you'll better understand.
So like, you know, if it's
no
crossing, but it's weak versus it's crossing and there's accelerant. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So
is
you
there an
have
indicator
other effects occurring there, but the gamma exposure is 0.
at 0.
Yeah. So I mean,
Sure. No.
No,
Yeah. But
no,
but
it's the
you can
opposite of that.
You cross that 0 to like a hefty downside bar, or just there's some gamma that's a little negative. It's not terrible, and
So yeah,
then obviously
the
when
steepness
they're
of the
small,
curve
I find myself
matters.
looking elsewhere to find out why there's.
That's because the steepness of the curve matters. So as moneyness moves to that like 0.0001,
Mhm.
you know, depending on how much exposure is picked up there, that's going to act as an accelerant to the shedding of delta that's already occurring, or negative 0.0001, right?
So there is a little bit of a tell as to the strength.
Sorry,
that might be picked up when you
0.9999.
cross over there. Right.
Yeah. So there
Okay.
is, because
That's been on my
I mean,
mind
if you've got a shitload of negative gamma below where gamma flips negative, you know, you're going to get, if price moves there. I mean, you still have
It's a
to.
higher probability that there might be some continuation into that zone,
Yeah.
as opposed to like very low probability or even better conditions for a bounce.
So you've seen. I'm sure you've seen me talking about this on stream, where we're like testing an upside resistance and we're in positive gamma, and I keep pointing out that like to the downside of us, gamma's falling off. You know, gamma
Right, and
incrementally, strike by strike, you start to see the gamma below us moving negative.
Right, and getting more negative.
Yeah, and as time progresses too, not just as positioning, but also with time.
Yeah,
Right.
I know you guys are working on. Yeah, exactly.
And so yeah, the rejection that will come if that upside level isn't crossed is going to be more the longer the day progresses, and the more positioning that's unwound in the money, the more range that downside move is going to pick up, and the more momentum on that move.
And later in the day, the more it's encouraging Charm to turn into the Undertaker.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where we are, Charm's tricky because Charm's it's not as relative to spot. It's more relative to like what strikes are in or out of the money and where the big piles of delta are. So Gamma's not a great indication of where Charm is at all.
No, I understand.
Charm, like negative Charm is always it's not where you're looking for Gamma to turn negative. They're very different points. But if you do pull out to the GXS, like the live Greeks page, and you're looking at your charm, like your actual charm chart there, you can see where like those flip points are. Like losing 50 today was pretty impactful. That kind of shifted the weight of the charm, in the bear's favor, because you have all those
Right.
puts that are in the money decaying to 1.
Yeah,
And then the
decaying
out of the money puts are fucking. There's not many of them, right? Like all the positioning is to the upside. There's not very many out of the money puts, and so yeah, you can see that was even in effect at 70 probably, because the in the money puts at 70 and 5900 were still way bigger than all these little fucking strikes in between.
Right. There was one point where I was able to peel my eyes away to the chain. And one of the strikes down there, like 55, or I recall that as I keep the charm value, at least that IBKR is calculating chain, and it just shot up as we crossed over that. It was like, oh boy, those puts just became a thing now.
Yep.
It was right near the end of the day.
Yeah, and something I do near the end of the day, you'll notice, is I go look at Delta.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, but when we hit 60 to 63 on that first failure, I was like, oh man, if we lose this, like look at all the positive delta to the downside that we're going to squeeze out, like 60, 50, 40. Because there was a shitload of delta at those strikes, all positive delta. And like all of like as we drop, that momentum picks up, and those deltas go from fucking 0 to 1 and 1 to 0, or and so the amount of momentum on that move is really significant. And I mean, everybody should be every once in a while, or just open a second window and watch these charts. Also, they're very important.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because I keep flipping back and forth to get that look at delta.
I don't think I need to look at the Greeks
if...
by strike like every second of the day. I really don't. But
although I sure wouldn't complain if the delta appeared as a third panel on the live chart. I wouldn't complain about that. To see how you have rows of 3 down.
It's gonna be hard to fit all that shit in the live chart. Let me tell you.
You got the slope lines would probably be hard. There's already this weird anomaly where like larger strikes can shoot up much larger, but just the graphical change doesn't look like anything because it's fitting into the same box.
Yeah.
You glance over and it's like the bars all look the same, but the scale has changed like 1 to 6.
That's what. Well, we also have the other scale here.
Yeah, true.
On the right side, so you can see that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. The tick chart itself is taking up way too much real estate right now. That's going to change shortly, a lot.
Ah, okay.
So
I find myself in this last week or two doing a lot of hovering right over for this very topic, right? Like hovering over like the next gamma bar down from spot or up from spot, just to get the hovering number and observe how fast it's changing.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Because of that weird phenomenon of like you have to fit your graphics into this fixed space, so a large change in the size is actually a reduction in the size of everything else. And the same thing on the OI side. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's just scaling. That's all you can do.
Sure. Now I know OI can be misleading because if somebody buys 1,000, it says 1,000. Somebody sells 1,000, it says 1,000. Somebody buys 1,000 again, it says 1,000.
Are you talking about this chart
3,000.
on the right?
Yeah.
This is volume.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I
It's
mean.
just- oh, okay,
Because
yeah,
it's
it's
volume.
just-
I
it's
said
just-
OI.
oh,
I
yeah.
meant volume.
Yeah.
But because that's not as indicative. That's like a running tally of everybody that's gone in or out the gate of the stadium.
I think the most useful thing in volume is to see where strikes are weighted, put or call.
Absolutely.
I think other than that, volume's fairly redundant.
I'm not sure I've changed that to net ever since we talked about it last time. I've been just staying on put and call now with the understanding that But again, that weird graphic anomaly, right? I find myself hovering there, because if one of them shoots up, it's not necessarily going to visually shoot up.
Yeah.
So that brings me to, I know you guys are working on that, but I was wondering if there's a way to just scroll the numbers within the space of the bar. Like, or some sort of there's got to be some way to indicate. I mean, obviously, most of the action is around spot time, but it would be helpful and a good guiding thing if, like, that strike 8 strikes up starts rocketing up. Some sort of bubble, a bar, an indication, a number, or something that calls one's attention.
I actually thought about
unusual
this
action up there
a bunch when I was like doing our roadmap for features, and I couldn't. I don't even think I've talked to Doric or JFresh about it yet, but I was thinking at the time that we could use the same glow effect that we have here
interesting.
to highlight bars where there's a change,
Some sort of a threshold of action that's passed or something.
yeah, and just so they would just like flicker, they would light up as they change, just for a
Sure.
second. But it would draw your eye to where
A little
positioning is
beacon saying,
moving.
hey, go check this out.
Yeah.
In case you're interested. Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw Liquidos's Absolute Delta thing that he put together, but he just runs the numbers in the bar and just lets them run like a tally. If that were something that happened, I would think it would be like I need to be able to turn that off sometimes thing as well. But it's and that's, your eye goes straight to that number that's like 58, 59, 61, 66, 69, 72, 70. Like your eye goes to that too. No glow needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my batch of stuff for you today.
All right.
Lines for implied move, and I feel like just for the 0 day, because that's what we're concentrating on so much when we're watching the live chart. It's an interesting thought experiment. Is there another implied model for the morning open or sometime within that time? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
We can think about it. It's
Yeah, no, I
don't really think that the thing you want is the thing you're calling it.
I don't think it is. It feels like it lies somewhere between.
I think you want like something like
Running
live.
that-
It's like almost like live skew, or like an
Yeah,
approximation of like. But we have the live IV curve, and like we're doing stuff with that. So maybe wait till that's released.
Okay.
And then we'll
You're
revisit
still trying
it.
to conquer. It suffers from that same weird issue.
Because I think it answers a lot of what you're asking.
Okay.
And I don't have it here to show you, but it's there.
Did you happen to catch the little chunk of spreadsheet I put in the chat there? That's the implied move formula I was encouraged to play with.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
This
if it's
is
still
what,
in there.
Is this like a point, like 0.4 delta strangle one or something?
It calculates the implied move from the straddle times 0.6, the next strike up each way.
So they're
times
just finding
0.3,
like a
and the
more
next strike up times 0.1.
I don't think you need to do all that. You're just finding like a slightly more granular mean.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't come out that far off from just the straddle.
Yeah.
But, But I don't know. I was encouraged that that's an accurate way to do it, so I put it in a spreadsheet.
I can tell you,
I haven't figured out a way to automate
whoever
it.
encouraged you to do it that way, it's no better than any other way.
Right.
I actually think the way we calculate it is the best way, or at least significantly better than using the at the money straddle.
Right. Right. Is that published somewhere, or is that secret sauce?
Did we publish that? I think we kept it secret, right?
You see,
Is Gherkin even here?
He's in a food coma from his fish tacos.
We kept the implied move model private, right?
I mean, I don't
think we've
I don't
mentioned
think
it
so.
before.
Yeah, it's one of the many well-known ones, so it's not like it's anything insane.
Yeah, there's simple
just thought it'd
ones
be
and
cool to-
slightly more
yeah.
complex ones.
Yeah, we just thought it'd be cool to put it up there because, our volatility page is, for a while it's been sorely lacking. So this was just some extra volatility analysis we could do with the existing data. That was just like at a glance, a few values, and kind of gives you an idea what's happening.
Well, and like we were talking about, I would elevate the 1 day to a line on the chart, top and bottom.
We could do that. I can throw those lines in. It doesn't make a difference. You can add as many lines as you want on the chart.
How long are the meetings where you guys decide on colors?
Oh,
Way too fucking long, dude.
that's my
Don't
fault.
even get me started.
Yeah, don't remind them that they hate me.
But does this vermilion really speak Vega news? Does it?
It's a delicate balance between being able to see shit and it also looking good.
Well, why do you think calls are not green and puts are not red?
I will say after
we talked about that.
after 3 years of arguing over colors, we do actually have officially like a palette.
Yeah, we like our colors now.
Yeah,
sure.
They're all locked in, and we got a little Bible full of branding shit. So
I don't use green and red anywhere if I can avoid it. It has too much of a psychological impact. Up is white and down is blue.
You're close to me. I did up is blue and down is yellow.
There you go. Yeah, it just does not have the
Slava Ukraine.
centuries of baked into our psyche.
Damn it,
red
Gert.
being danger and
Yeah, no.
anyway,
Well, it's
so
like
yeah,
red's the color of blood. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
I'm not affected by
think
the
that way.
color of the candles at all, but we'll eventually have it so you guys can pick your own fucking candle colors.
Yeah,
well, that's in version 9.
Version
not for me.
4.24.
4.20, you mean?
Version 6.
No, it's after you're already high.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I failed that already.
Oh,
Okay, so
Willie,
that's what I
here.
got. I
While
looked
you're
up-
up
oh,
here, I'll tease you guys with something.
Oh,
Are we teasing?
Oh, how dare you! I've been
What?
teasing people with pictures this whole time, and you just
No
showed
soundboard.
did you just make
How
Schaefer
dare you.
sad?
A
it.
little.
How dare you?
You shouldn't be sad. You should. Ooh.
I've been running around
I've-
all week deleting the pictures he keeps posting of it.
Well, that means it's
Well.
close. It's not. We just had a big
All right,
fight about
so
it last
this
night,
is-
so
It's getting
we're like
close.
2 weeks out.
It's getting
Is
close.
this arrangeable by the user? No.
No.
Arranged, right?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Oh, look at you and your fancy. Is that I gotta zoom. Oh, it's Vol. Good.
Yep.
I don't for the life of me know why. I guess why the options depth guys don't have. They only have a gamma surface, not a Vol surface.
Weird.
Probably because they don't calculate their own Vol.
Yep. We do. We also have the
They
smile.
Are so weighted to that report.
Oh,
that
look
they
at this.
work with.
Oh my god, so many expirations.
Yeah, that's not done yet. That's not done yet. You're only showing.
We still got to work on
my
that
God.
one. Yeah, we're showing him.
You've-
We're showing him a really rough draft here, Gherkin.
I know.
So at what point on that smile chart Are you going to steal the IBKR thing where you can display more than one
It's already on
expiry
the
at the
list.
same time?
This is something that we were
It's already-
already fighting about last night.
It's already
Oh my
happening.
god! You have the Surface, dude. Why do you need that? Why do you need more of them?
The Surface is difficult to read and track, dude.
You're difficult to read and track, dude.
And sometimes displaying like
Good
today,
comeback,
tomorrow,
Kyle.
Friday, and next Friday gives you information about the projected path of things. If I'm going to
Look,
buy
we
this
will-
longer dated put, do I want to buy it Friday or maybe next Tuesday is better?
We will fight and argue about this. Trust me, there are still, I approximate, at least 3
Oh, wait a minute,
meetings
hold
and at
on
least 4 fights. One of them in text and at least 2 of them in voice.
All right.
Also,
What are
probably
the
like a
color- what are
week
the
of-
colors indicating?
Probably
Hold on,
also an
what are the-
additional week of me and JFresh being like really passive aggressive with each other in chat.
Now hold on. What are the colors?
Which
I
colors?
see the
Colors?
Surface changing in color as you move it.
Yeah, there's a
just high to low, I
gradient on
think.
the IV.
Is that
Yeah.
great? Okay, so that's
It's just high to low.
okay.
Yeah, that was not.
There's not like
weird,
some
was
other
it?
data point being exemplified there. No.
Not yet.
No,
So pretty gradient.
Maybe, but not yet. No, it's really cool looking though.
It is pretty cool to look at.
Shimmers.
Well, very cool. And all of a sudden, you're going to have to educate the whole world about term structure.
Yay.
Hopefully we don't. Hopefully,
Just put it in the
hopefully
docs.
people who care use it.
Or is that where you go? Is that where you go? If you don't already understand it, I can't explain it to you. Let JFresh write the docs.
I
Read the
mean,
docs.
That's,
first.
we just tell people to read the docs.
Yeah.
term
go.
structure is easy enough.
RTFM.
I think I can do it. I'll
Yeah.
take up the call.
I believe in you.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I screenshotted that.
Well,
You
it's out
bitch.
there.
All right. Anyway, I'll let you guys go back to others, and thank you. And yeah, I'm coming at you with all the teeny tiny little things again.
It's all right.
That's what she said.
It's cool.
I love your feedback on weird UI things and how much you want me to try to pack into one chart.
Seriously.
I think
You're
I
like,
showed you
you're
that
like, can I
piece.
rewind this chart and get 12 more lines on it?
Right.
Well,
yeah,
you
I just
know,
want nothing
I-
but squiggles.
If you could have heard me talking to the screen out loud in your wrap up today, when you're like, see here at the set or here early in this call, we were like, see here at the 70 where it did blah 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 blah. I'm like, sure would be nice to rewind that, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Sure would be nice to
Actually-
show everybody just how right you were by rewinding it a little.
No. I have a recorded live stream of how right I am every day.
There you go. There you go.
That's why I keep the VODs up.
That's what Liquidos does with this absolute delta thing. He just he lets YouTube record it for him all day.
Yeah, they pay for the storage.
Yep.
And it just fuels my ego.
Right. Well, there you go. I mean, and like we talked about last time I was on, in all honesty, doing a playback is nothing more than grabbing an image every minute or something. That was an early way that TraderLink worked. It grabbed a still every 1 minute and put it in a Discord channel, and you could scroll back through the Discord channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty ooh. And of course, it meant 540 JPEGs a day forever,
Ugh.
or 600 and however many minutes there are in a day.
Poor
or in a
Discord.
trading day. So it's 390. It's 390 a day. So that'd be 390 for delta, 390 for gamma, 390 for speed, 390 for.
And you just want to
star
you want
trade.
to slough this off onto us, don't you?
Well, because once
You
once
motherfucker.
the machines are doing it every day,
He
then
wants to
it's,
just pay for fewer subscriptions.
I see. Yeah, what are you at now? 10?
I'm holding fast at 3. It could become 2 here pretty soon after.
Oh shit! Don't release any more
Could-
features,
could-
guys.
It could become 2.
It's gonna become one.
I'm not going to mention
God.
who might get voted off the island.
That means it's us.
It's not.
No,
It's not
you
us.
guys. Not you guys. Yeah, we'll talk in a less public manner about that.
All right. All right, have a good night, Willie.
we'll talk,
Yeah,
we'll
thanks
talk
for
in
coming
a
on, bud.
less litigatable manner about that.
Litigious.
Exactly. All right, yeah. Have a good night, guys.
You too, man. Later.
Yeah.
Bye. Hey,
Thanks a
how do
ton,
I get
dude.
out of here? I'm on my phone.
I
Throw me
got
out
you.
of it.
I'll get you.
Yeah, Gherk's got a big red button.
It's just
Those are
got a
good questions.
It's just got a tiny little boot on it.
Ah, perfect.
Yeet.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can.
What's up?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. All right. So Windmill Willie kind of stole some of my ideas, but oh wait, but before I ask my question, Girk, is it okay with your girlfriend that I'm on this call?
That's
Oh
ridiculous.
shit.
No, it's not okay.
It's not.
She's right here. I'm giving her a foot rub, and she's pissed.
Oh dear.
what?
Well, learn to share. Learn to share. So notifications for like large positions closing, because you kind of call that out a lot on stream. Could that be something where even we could set it similar to how we do levels in Weeble that we want to be notified about?
So you want notifications or something we're adding, but later.
Okay. Yeah, because just kind of similar to what he said about the levels being a bit difficult to perceive with changing size of the bars scaling in and out. So just maybe like, oh, this has suddenly decreased and have some kind of, whether it's a glow or a pop over or something to
Yeah, so that's
kind of
what
indicate
that's what we were talking to Willie about.
Yeah.
I mean, so notifications are definitely a piece of our stack that we want to build. We very actively want to build it. We're all excited about it for all the potential it adds to like all of our stuff, right? Being able to just have a little pop-up show up or a little notifications inbox in your thing where you can look at it and be like, oh, these stocks on my watch list or whatever are doing this thing. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, like like how you can say like if there's this much of a vol increase on a certain stock in Webull, please send me a notification type of thing where you could kind of do that with some of the major strikes, like if the strike closes 25% of its position or something like that of the total open interest.
Yeah, the customizable notifications will probably be difficult. However, we still need to sit down and flesh this out fully in which direction we want to take it. There's a lot of things we could do with like automated notifications for like big moves and options positioning and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
for fully customizable, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, there needs to be a balance between you need to go look at the data and some bot constantly scanning the platform and telling you what you want to look at and automating your visualization of the data, because you don't want either one. Like, you want notifications, but you don't want them to be too leading. And then,
No.
and you don't want to miss out on data because you're only relying on notifications and there's something you didn't think of customizing into those notifications. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons we have scanners, is so you can find things to watch, and then we will have watch lists and stuff like that. But as far as like notifying you of like a specific strikes change in OI on a specific stock, it's probably too granular.
Yeah, I guess just some way that it pops out a little bit more at you when the levels change so much, because like he said, without any overlay with like a number other than when you hover over it, which I can't always do because I'm a lot of times trading on my phone and looking at it on a view as regular web page rather than mobile page. It's kind of impossible. So
Yeah.
So what about this? So what if like a cutout picture of Gherk's face popped up and occupied the entire screen, like rocking back and forth like an old 90s clip art thing? And on full blast, it's just Gherk saying, "You've got a notification. You've got a notification. You've got a notification."
yes,
Like
there's no way to turn it off.
The
at all.
Jurassic Park one?
Yes.
He has to pop up like Clippy and be like, "Do you need some help making money?"
I
It needs
have
to be way more
several
obnoxious than
cartoon
that.
versions of myself that we could deploy.
Yeah, that would be great. Very fun.
Good lord.
And
I'm loving
then
this
the other thing,
notification.
yeah, the car. Um, the other thing was the part where you were talking about the arbitrage with like favoring the monthly versus favoring the zero DTE. I think I've been completely misinterpreting that in the pickles picks because it sounds like what you were explaining was totally different than what I was understanding. So you're basically saying that there is a large spread between the two that you can somehow take advantage of rather than saying like, options are
No, you're probably
uh
not going to effectively take advantage of it, but someone else is going to take advantage of it, and that influences the market.
okay. Yeah, I was the way I had read it in the past was more like the options might be a bit better priced for the 30-day than the zero DTE because they're not expecting this movement such and such a time, but I
That's
think I was
accurate.
totally. What was that?
I mean that is accurate in certain
That is
instances. Like
accurate. Okay.
like if the spread favors the 1 day, on the the monthly contract is lower implied vol than the SPXW contract for the 0 day. Then yeah, the 30-day contract is cheaper on the 1 day move. Because I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
That's what I was.
reiterate
That's
what
what I
Jay
was
Fresh says
understanding
all
from
the
it.
time. IV is price. So
Yeah.
when
Okay,
you're
but that's what
looking
I was
at IV
understanding
on
from
one
it before.
contract or the implied move on one contract, you're looking at the implied move on another, right? And you're cross comparing those two. One is more expensive, one is less. Some balance into the end of the day will probably be found between the two.
Okay. All
And
right.
so
Well, that makes more
one is
sense.
either going to climb or one is going to drop relative to the other. And that spread,
Okay. And
like
then
all spreads, will close.
yeah, and then the arbitrage part, like you say, is more for the market makers themselves. And
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, you could leverage it, but I think it's more because it's the night before and it's not live, like we were discussing with Willie. It's more important the influence on the spot market that the closing of that spread will have, where participants are incentivized and how they're incentivized is what we're deriving from that data. So
okay, that
like I
makes
was
sense.
saying earlier, you open above that implied move and options are getting priced up very rapidly. Options are going to be very overpriced for a period of time. The incentive for both people long those options and people who want to short those options is to sell them. So to
Yeah.
sell to open, sell to close doesn't matter. Sold. Sell calls, right? Because
Hmm.
the calls are overpriced relative to what the market maker had previously priced. And the same is true for puts on the downside of that implied move. And then that spread kind of tells you where participants are going to be incentivized relative to how they're pricing the implied moves separately on the two contracts.
Okay. And then one other question was with the charm decay into the end of the day and looking at the delta, I basically was able to tell that that move was coming myself just from kind of just how it looked.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been seeing the positive delta there, and like you say, once you slip it, that those are screwed basically, and speed picks up to the downside. But how can you tell really when uh, the positive delta is going to be more of a support and it will be tricky to break through it because it's been a little like I'm not sure.
It's relative to moneyness. That's why we use price as an indicator of breakpoints. So I mean, if spot is at 70, it's still supported. If spot's at 68, it's still a little bit supported. If it starts to lose 68 and fall towards the next strike, where the hedge is going to shift, which is kind of in between the strikes, um,
Mhm.
then that's where you're going to experience the most impact as price moves through that range. So, I mean, that goes back to that gravity model that I'm always going on about how strikes influence the movement of price. And it's kind of like, orbital gravity in the sense
Okay.
that at the strike, gravity is strongest. And, that gravity continues to have a pull on either side of that strike. But if you break free of that, it kind of has like a slingshot effect.
It's like a Holman
Okay.
transfer. Yeah, you've done rocket science, right?
Me?
Yeah, it's a simple Holman transfer. Yeah, I mean, you're just changing
Alrighty
the
then.
orbital distance, and some
Well, I
point
mean,
your trajectory
I've
turns
watched a lot of
parabolic.
space movies, so yeah, I was able to picture that, and
Yeah.
I've whirled things around my head and thrown them before, that happens.
I do like the analogy. It makes sense. Yeah, and like Eric was saying too, with the whole IV thing. I mean, that's why you see IV is generally lowest at the money, right? Like it's cheapest, but the cost of it only goes up or down from there. Like and most rapidly so compared to every other contract, and that's for a reason, right? A coin flip is one of the most volatile positions you can take if in positional, like in directional trading, versus picking something with really low odds, right? That's why you tend to see the pricing on those far out of the money contracts not change very much, and that's just because the odds on them are already in the minds of the market, the collective minds of the market. It's already all sort of set in stone, and it's those margins right at the money where you kind of are making actual decisions.
Okay. I feel like I had another question, but that is, I think, it. Yeah, it was more just trying to figure out when it's going to end, kind of range bound, and when it's not, and that's always tricky to decide. But
I mean,
I can kind of.
anytime you have like big piles of gamma around spot, you're generally going to be relatively range bound. Price action is going to slow down because there's
Mhm.
so much shift in hedging as spot moves. And like all of that gamma kind of compresses price because you go one way and the market maker pushes back the other, and then the exposure gets too high and the market maker pushes back to the downside. And so and then areas where price can move really freely, like we saw at the end of the day today, are areas where gamma is very low, and so like out of the money gamma is really low, and so there was not a lot of all of the gamma was right at spot. We were very close to expiration, and so gamma picked up with each strike as we moved to the downside relative to moneyness, but the gamma in between, in between that transition is like nothing, and so there's nothing really hindering the price movement, and that's why those big piles of gamma act as support or resistance, both ways.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate the clarification.
No problem.
All right, thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks for
hopping
coming on. Yeah.
All right, it's getting late. Do we have any more stragglers, or are we gonna call it?
I don't know. Last chance to raise your hand. Three, two,
Baby farms.
one. Baby Farms. Oh, Max, what's up?
They.
No, we're on a roll. I have a question for JFresh. What is it?
Oh God.
Oh, okay.
No, ask your question.
Ask
I'll
it.
answer your question.
It's gonna involve trading.
I don't want to be. I'm feel like I.
Well,
overpick on
JFresh would
people.
be a terrible person to ask a trading question.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right at all. You can type it. I know you're guy.
Need to. We're not going to
Next
be
time?
mapping onto other coordinate systems. That's not
All
a good
right.
idea.
That's a
We
terrible
can do it
idea.
next time.
McLawn Johnson, welcome to Billionaire. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you can check out our website at app.gammastrike.com, where you can read the documentation on the tools that we have built for retail traders. And if you want to sign up after reading that documentation, be our guest. And we will see you all next week for the next round of this. Thank you all. Later.
Later.
Thanks. See ya.